(1050) 24/3, 2026, JTV. Community guidelines was broken. So we have to start again. Man has never made a mistake, has never made a discovery. So Iran is exporting more oil at the moment. Heading to China. Heading to China. The blockade is achieved in the Strait of Hormuz by blocking oil tankers. So while the exports of the neighbouring countries in Saudi Arabia and Iraq have plummeted 60%, Iranian tankers are still loading and sailing. Still sailing. Still sailing. Oil tankers still flowing. Still flowing, the oil tankers. Right, so we've got oil tankers. So this brings a strange and crucial detail. Iran oil exports have actually increased since the war began. And this is a bizarre paradox. A bizarre paradox. So in an echo of historical reference, going back to the 1991 Gulf War, the 1991 Gulf War, right? Gulf War. So we have the deliberate spills. Iraqi forces intentionally opened valves and dumped oil into the Gulf to stop US Marines creating a 160-kilometer long slick that perished 30,000 seabirds. They're setting the fields alight in a movement that echoes today's threats to water plants. Iraq set fire to 600 Kuwaiti oil wells. Resulting fire burns for months, consuming an estimated 6 million barrels of oil per day. Oil that was literally set on fire, causing an economic loss of 60 million daily. It's also created an environmental catastrophe, poisoned the air, and rained down soot. So we have the region is a top global exporter of liquefied natural gas and other refined products, primarily shipped through the vulnerable straits. So attacks on energy infrastructure, attacks on enemy infrastructure, like the recent Israeli strikes on Iranian oil facilities. This causes black rain and severe soil groundwater contamination, a direct form of environmental warfare. And this area is very vulnerable when it comes to water. To water. Desalination, right? Desalination. Let's get this up. Nation. Right. So this is removing salts and minerals from seawater. So Iran has threatened to destroy these plants, and this is a lifeline for the Gulf nations. Such attacks could cause a humanitarian catastrophe. And directly linked back to our discussion on nature, the salt waste from other plants already damages marine ecosystems, and bombing them would cause unprecedented chemical pollution. So we have the region, particularly Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Iran, accounts for a massive share of global supply. And we're talking about crude oil and petroleum. So 20% of oil passes through the Straits of Hormuz, and control of this flow is a strategic objective. Iran is attacking other nations' tankers to halt their exports, while protecting their own. So, business as usual in Iran, and it's fair to say business is doing well at the moment. Ouch. Ouch. That's an ouch there. Well, as we're speaking about effects on nature, it's so much effects. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's astonishing. So you have your invertebrates, sea cucumbers, sea urchins, jellyfish. You have your mollusks, the famous pearl oyster, crustaceans, blue swimming crab, tiger shrimps, banana shrimp and spiny lobsters, the invertebrates. Moving swiftly on, you have your Arabian Peninsula, which is a crossroad for major migratory bird routes, making the Gulf coastlines critically important. Vulnerability: seabirds are extremely at risk from an oil spill, which destroys the waterproofing of their feathers, leading to hypothermia and drowning. Yeah, it's a very delicate conundrum here with the seabirds, right? And you have your habitats. I'm gonna pick the coral reefs, the breeding grounds for it's a nursery basically, isn't it? Underwater cities, the coral reefs, different species in the coral reefs. Very important for the ecosystem, which is very fragile when it comes to sound, to sound. Minor temperature fluctuations can cause dramatic effects in the coral reefs. And once you've disrupted the coral reefs, the food chain is disrupted. The food chain disrupted. Right? So their heat tolerance and supports a vast array of reef fish like groupers and damselfish, clownfish, which we all are aware of. Finding Nemo. Nemo. So Nemo's habitat is at risk, and the crucial nurseries for fish and crustaceans. And we have your mangroves, grey mangroves. These forests underwater provide essential nursery habitats for juvenile fish, crustaceans, and feeding grounds for birds. So again, a disruption of the food chain. A disruption of the food chain. And this is a critical habitat, very vulnerable to oil spills and blast damage. Right? So we can go to the top of the food chain. The sharks and the rays. So the fish diversity in the Gulf is immense. Is immense. Species adapt to the warm and saline waters. Over 500 species of fish have been recorded. Scientific reviews identifying up to 900 species, which include the broader region. Sharks and rays, the Gulf supports at least 60 species of sharks and rays. You have your whale sharks, your black tip reef sharks, tiger sharks, scalloped hammerheads. And you have your rays, your giant manta rays, and your cowtail stingrays and blue spotted ribbon-tail rays. Also your bony fish. You have most species of rich families include gobies, jacks, rorises, and blennies. All at risk. All at risk. All at risk at this moment in time. With the oil spill. With the oil spill. We have our marine reptiles. Marine reptiles. This is a critical foraging and nesting ground. You have your hawksbill sea turtles. You have your green turtles, loggerhead turtles, and olive ridley turtle. Moving up, we have your marine mammals. Your marine mammals. Right? Marine mammals. Again, very delicate creatures. I mean, land-based creatures returning back to the water. And you have your dugong. Your dugong. Right, your dugong. So this is the second largest population of these vulnerable herbivores. They're called sea cows. Around 5,000 to nearly 8,000 individuals, and they feed on the exclusively seagrass beds. You also have your dolphins, your bottlenose, your spinner dolphins. You have your whales, your bride's whale, and the rare, on occasions, you may see a blue whale and humpback whales. So when it comes to sonic interference, these animals are very vulnerable as they communicate underwater, and any changes in sound can cause major disruption to their well-being, to their well-being, right? Now, if we bring back a grim history moment, Iran possesses an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 naval mines, and Western demining capabilities in the region have been significantly reduced, raising the spectre of a prolonged environmental crisis. So in 1991, with the ecocide, we call it the ecocide in 1991, we have the ecocide. Right? This is where the Iraqi forces deliberately opened oil valves, causing causing spills, causing spills, right? Causing spills, right? Causing spills. Okay, right. So if we have a sunken ship, this can damage infrastructure and leak fuel and chemicals, munitions into the water, creating long-term contamination points that persist due to the Gulf's slow water renewal rate. Blast damage, explosions physically destroy critical habitats like coral reefs and seagrass beds. You also have your acoustic disturbances, mines and sonar create intense underwater noise that can cause mass stranding of whales, disorientations of the dolphins. So this naval mines and bombs don't just risk oil spills, they actually cause physical and acoustic harm. So the 1991 Gulf War demonstrates how vulnerable the ecosystems is to conflict pollution. While there's no active rescue mission for wildlife in a war zone, the primary strategies are preventive and forensic. So, preventing a time bomb, the most critical if effort is diplomatic proposal for safe maritime corridors to evacuate stranded seafarers and by extension the 85 oil tankers carrying 20 billion litres of oil. A major spill would be devastating outcome for marine life. Documenting the damage, organisations like the Conflict and Environment Observatory are on the ground recording over 300 environmental risk incidents, including direct attacks on tankers. This data creates a record for future accountability. The stressing of the ecosystems, pollution can persist for decades, which was seen in the 1991 Gulf War oil spill, the world's largest, which still affects coastlines today. The desalination threat, the strikes on desalination plants, a primary source of drinking water for Gulf nations, poses catastrophic consequences. Seafarers are in danger, the 20,000 who are trapped on the ships in the conflict zone, facing extreme physical risk. And yes, the insurance costs have skyrocketed 12 folds, 12 folds, 12 folds. Here's a fascinating intersection of nature and warfare. The US Navy have historically deployed trained bottlenose dolphins, right? Bottled-nosed, train the bottlenose dolphins, right, to find mines, right? Bottlenose, nose, dolphins. Okay, right, right. So this is unconfirmed if they're going to be using these dolphins at this precise time. Their past deployment highlights the unique vulnerability of marine mammals and the very animals that military sometimes rely on to the chaos of war. So the attacks on, say, an oil depot, oil depot, right? Right. Now this could cause black rain, right? A mix of oil and water, and apparently this fell on Tehran, the capital of Iran, and prompting the WHO to warn of severe respiratory risks. You have your active naval warfare. The US has struck 16 Iranian mine layers near the strait, while Iran has deployed explosive laden boats and mines, sinking or damaging multiple vessels. So, once a sunken ship as a pollutant, sunken vessels are leaking fuel, and this is fuel oil, chemicals, and munitions into the water, a form of pollution experts warn could persist for years due to the Gulf's limited water circulation. So, the most critical threat is a massive oil spill from 85 large tankers carrying at least 21 billion litres of oil. Let's have a look at an oil tanker. Oil tankers. Okay. Right. So we've got oil tankers. Some mines have been laid and missiles are hitting ships. The environmental disaster is waiting to happen. A spill of these large tankers in the enclosed waters would devastate the marine life beyond repair. So we'll have the oil smothering the coral reefs, the mangroves, and the seagrass meadows. So this is going to affect the food chain, and heavens forbid, you may consume such creatures. Okay, right. So the fish, the birds, even the air is now polluted. Right, the air is polluted. So the food chain is affected is affected at this time. Right, so we've got burning oil tankers, and who's to say how much is actually what is going on? How much damage has been caused by Iran, and who's to say you may even blow up an oil tanker yourself to blame the enemy? Yeah, yeah, you can do. Why not? When the gloves are off, when the gloves are off, huh? Anything goes. Okay, and obviously you don't want the world to know that you're suffering in such a way, so you may hide the fact of these attacks, which are successful attacks. They can't be stopped, not even by the greatest army on the planet. Yeah, the military might. So we got reports from the Gulf. The environmental impact of the war is shifting from a theoretical sonic concern to a very real and immediate oil spill and pollution crisis. Since hostilities escalated on February the 28th of 2026, the Persian Gulf has become a front line where active attacks on energy infrastructure and shipping are causing acute environmental damage. Right? So let's have a look at the sonic weapons. Right? The sonic weapons. So it's worth noting, while sonic weapons exist and have been used by US forces elsewhere, their use is typically documented in specific operations. Now, they used a sonic weapon in Venezuela, right? Which I was quite impressed, military wise, right? On how they executed this sonic weapon, which basically rendered the Venezuelan army into submission. Basically, it was it was something else. I mean, I couldn't believe how fast they had Maduro. You know how they captured Maduro, right? The use of sonic weapons, right? Right. So these are designed to be non-lethal, a tool against humans. Sonic weapons represent a significant form of environmental pollution. Their greatest documented impact is on marine ecosystems, where they have been links to mass strandings and population levels effects on whales and other species. On land, primary effects are habitat disruptions, behavioural change, and the potential for unintended harm to wildlife, particularly birds. So, beyond direct physical harm to individual animals, the use of sonic weapons can trigger cascading ecological disruptions. You have acoustic fog effect. Let's have a look at the acoustic fog effect. Right. Acoustic fog effect. Yeah. Right. So it introducing extremely loud dominant frequencies into the environment, sonic weapons create a blanket of noise that can mask the natural sounds essential for survival. You have your prey predators dynamics. A sonic event scares away key prey species and causes disorientation in predators, destabilizing the local food web. You have your infrastructure vibrations, infrasonic weapons, which create low frequency vibrations, can travel through the ground. These can vibrate and collapse burrows, disrupt the subterranean environment for insects and rodents, and even destabilize nests in trees or on cliff faces. On cliff faces. So the effects on land are less studied but no less real. While a directed sonic weapon like an LRAD is aimed at a human target, the sound doesn't exist in a vacuum. So you have your displacement and habitat abandonment. The use of intense sonic weapons in training areas or operations can cause birds and terrestrial mammals to abandon their nests, dens, and critical feeding grounds. Prolonged exposure can lead to chronic stress, reduced reproductive success, and long term population declines in the affected areas. We have the avian vulnerability. Birds, extremely sensitive hearing, and rely on acoustic cues for mating, predator alerts, and navigation. High intensity sonic events can cause mass disorientation, leading to collisions with structures. There is also evidence that intense sound can cause barrel trauma, physical injury from pressure changes. On your screen, we have seismic waves. Seismic waves. So sound pulses exceeding 260 decibels can cause temporary or permanent hearing loss in fish, squid, and marine mammals. And the seismic air guns are used for geological surveys. These are often a precursor to military action. You have your low frequency active sonar, and we know sonar, the whales, the dolphins use sonar. Yeah, sonar, right? We've got the sonar. So you're disrupting the whales, the dolphins, like the humpback whale and the blue whale, right? Some of our largest creatures, right, on the planet. So this can cause mass stranding of beaked whales. So what happens? They hear this sound and they panic and they head to the surface. So with this panic and rising to the surface, it causes decompression sickness, right? Also, you have your abandonment. They abandon critical habitats. So not just the whales, all sorts of life underwater is disrupted. You may even have the separation of mothers from calves, right? The mothers of calves. So it, it's a widespread carnage, you know, widespread carnage. Um, right, separation of the mothers from the calves, and in the marine environment, sonic weapons have the most profound and well documented effects. Marine animals, especially whales and dolphins, your seals, the pinnipeds, they rely on sound for virtually every aspect of their lives: navigation, communication, finding food, avoiding predators. And these intense man made sound can be catastrophic, can be catastrophic, right? So sound waves can be blocked by common materials. Earplugs are effective against audible ultrasonic frequencies. Size and direction. To generate a focused beam of high intensity sound over a long distance, the emitter must be very large. Infrasound is particularly difficult to focus on a directional beam, right? So we have a recent and controversial example, right? The use of the this sonic sound was used in Venezuela. Individuals were suffering from severe symptoms like nose bleeds, vomiting blood, and temporary paralysis. And it's later confirmed the use of a secret sonic weapon in operation. It's no longer a secret, right? It works. It's very effective. Very effective. Man. Very effective, right? The sonic weapons. So you got your sonic weapons. They're divided into three categories: infrasonic, audible, intense. You have your infrasonic, then you have your audible, intense sound, and then you have your ultrasonic. Yeah. So here's an example. Um, you have a highly penetrative sound which can pass through walls and armor. Right. You've got your long range acoustic devices. These are used for crowd control. And highly directional but easily blocked, limited range and use as a weapon. You have your ultrasonic weapon, your ultrasonic sounds. So the principle behind sonic weapons is acoustic resonance. The human body and organs and cavities that vibrate at specific natural frequencies. When an external sound wave matches one of these frequencies, it can cause the organ to vibrate, leading to a range of disruptive and painful effects without causing permanent external injuries. So your externals okay, looks okay, but your internal organs are shattered. They're shattered, right? Right, and these are classes non-lethal directed energy weapons, right? And they use sound waves to incapacitate, disorientate, or deter targets, right? And we're talking about infrasonic, audible, and ultrasonic. I've also seen how this can affect the balance of nature. The balance of nature. So we also looked at the use in Venezuela, right? We also looked at the oil, the oil spills, how that could affect, for an example, coral reefs. Our sonar can affect the marine life. The threat of oil spills would be a catastrophe in the area. We also have the water. The water is going to be jeopardized if it becomes contaminated. The whole area relies on water. So the effects, we're not having an Ed Miliband moment here. No, we're not having an Ed Miliband moment. But it's real and it's happened before in the 1991 Gulf War, right? And it took decades to recover, right? Just a small change in temperature causes say for an example, the coral reefs to be affected, and then this affects the food chain, which we are a part of the food chain. We are part of the food chain, right? Once we're consuming, we've got to eat something, haven't we? Right? We've got to eat something. Food chain. Okay. So added to all the chemicals that we're taking in, now we're gonna chain which is gonna be disrupted. Oil, chemicals, panicking animals. Yeah, animals panicking, birds, disruption. Right. So it affects everything. The natural balance is affected. And don't forget, we're a part of the food chain, so we're going to be affected. And it may not happen straight away, but the future, it takes so long for these. I mean, something like oil, that could probably never go away, like the damage that's caused by the oil. So, we already have the plastics in many many marine life. Okay, so that would affect our health. The vegetation as well. We also have the black rain we spoke about, that was falling in Tehran. Black rain in Tehran. I didn't hear about this. The black rain, yeah. Okay, so this is a mix of oil and water. The oil spills, the burning tankers, respiratory illnesses. Okay, so it rains down soot, right? And we have drought concerns in an already vulnerable area when it comes to water. We also got the water. If the water gets contaminated, it, it, it could affect the whole region. The whole region, right? And further afield as well. There's no way to contain this pollution, right? So it's just another avenue to look at. As I said, I'm not having an Ed Miliband moment. I'm not having an Ed Miliband moment. But it's something to look at. It's something to look at how the things can be affected. And it's not really pointed out as much, you know, when it comes to the sort of weapons being used. And then we have the dangers of escalating warfare hanging in the balance. But we also got to worry about the contamination of the area. which will affect one and all, right? Going to affect one and all. Let me get a picture of Ed Miliband up, man. He's funny, Ed Miliband. Oh dear. Here, Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband moment. God. Huh? Right?